Hello! Finally, we are back with our second podcast of 2022. A little later than planned, but that's very on brand for baseball right now. We are recording on Tuesday, March 1st, an hour or so before we strike shit o'clock and a scheduled MLB opening day being put on hold. So in this podcast, we'll be discussing the very much ongoing MLB collective bargaining agreement talks, alongside the latest A's ballpark news and the all-important naming of our A's UK prospect cow. Yes, I am Matt, and joining me to chew the cud are not a couple of cows, but Hannah and Dom. How are you both doing?
Very good, thanks, Matt.
Very well, thank you, Matt. How are you?
Very well, thank you too, yes. We may need something to take the place of baseball pretty soon. So let's dive straight in because there's no place else to start, unfortunately, but the Labour dispute that potentially may be resolved by the time you listen to this podcast, although the way things are looking, that does not look very likely at all. Cue the appropriate music. Yes, the circus is in town, ascending the clowns, and there's no bigger clown than MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred. Teams should be playing spring training games right now, but instead reporters are live tweeting videos of the negotiating teams walking in between two buildings in Florida. The MLB owners and MLB players have been unable to reach a deal so far on a new collective bargaining agreement, with Commissioner Rob Manfred stating that a deal is needed today, that's Tuesday, March 1st, to avoid the start of the season being delayed. Although, to be fair, he said the same thing yesterday. It's all gone a bit lean or messy, hasn't it, guys? The fans always are the ones who are kind of sat on the outside looking in, and it's been very clear this time along. Both sides have been very much trying to put their messages out through reporters and beat writers to try and curry favour one way or the other. But Dom, it's all very depressing at any time, let alone what we've been through over the past couple of years.
Yeah, thoroughly. And you'd think, with the context being the last couple of years and having had a 60-game season, you'd think they'd learn their lesson and get on with this. And by them, I mean the owners, because no information war will deter me from believing that this is entirely their fault. Greedy bastards. So I despair with it. I think it demonstrates better than ever why the franchise system doesn't work. Just introduce relegation. Let there be more teams. Let the AAA teams come up. Never mind moving teams. Just get on with it. Yeah. And obviously, all of that is never going to happen. But there is some things that might, some good things that might come of it. We've already established that there's going to be a designated hitter on both sides of the American and National League. Yeah. Then still some talk, is there, of the salary floor and cap?
There is. So it gets very complicated when you start looking at those details. I think the main thing that the players are interested in is raising things like the minimum wage, because of course, and certain fans on social media will concentrate on the top guys, on the people on the most money, but they represent like most societies, they represent a very small percentage of the overall group. Most players don't play for 6 years in the major leagues, don't get to free agency, don't really ever make the big sort of money we think about. So they want the minimum wage to be upped. And they also want to, in this radical idea, they kind of want to make sure that teams are incentivized to do well and to have success on the field, because currently teams almost are asked to not bother trying. If they can't get to the playoffs, they'll say, well, if we're really bad, we can get the first pick in the draft next year, so we might as well completely strip our payroll to pieces and work that way.
And they've also been pushing for the minor leaguers to get paid, haven't they? Paid during spring training and things like that. This is a just cause.
Oh yes.
This isn't broken billion. Like the owners aren't. It's just penny pinching. Just get on with it and deliver us a sport that we can enjoy.
Yeah, I mean that's the really frustrating thing. Like at the minute, when you look at the proposals, it's something like there's $50,000 difference on the minimum salary that they want. So if that's over 10 players, that's £500,000 a year. I mean, that's nothing to these guys on the big payrolls, but it can make a big difference to the younger players coming through. And they've tried to impose a deadline. Tried to do that yesterday, and in doing that, they've already said the first week of spring training has been knocked out. What essentially MLB are saying is that if to have a proper spring training where players can get ready for the season and still have a full season, they need to get a deal done today, basically. They spent something like 16 hours talking yesterday, Hannah, and it has kind of been mentioned by lots of people. It seems like that was almost 16 hours more than what their owners had bothered to do for the previous 3 months. Rob Manfred has said, "I consider missing games as a disastrous outcome for the industry." Do you believe him?
Do I believe anything he says? No, absolutely not.
No.
I did enjoy Bryce Harper asking Tokyo Giants whether he could go and play for them. That I'm enjoying some of the players seeing the light side of it, but also making very, very clear and valid points as well.
Meanwhile, I have just quickly checked Twitter with no hope that there would be good news. And thankfully, that's good, because there is no good news. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Breaking news, MLB players reject the best final offer from owners. So if owners and Commissioner Rob Manfred now follow through on their threat, opening day will be delayed. Some number of games in regular season cancelled. The players' contingent is leaving Florida right now. So there's a happy note to end on.